mute. Bring it back to the scenes. Yo, what is good, family? We are on YouTube right now, and also on the Twitter Spaces. We may not get anybody here, but that's okay. This is typically meant for the archives. Let me see here. So it's recording everything, which is cool. Now I just need to figure out to see if this is going to work out here. I found out how to suppress my voice or suppress noise in the background, and you won't believe how invaluable that is. So let me mute this here. So it works. It works great. It is working just fine here. And you know I'm not one for introductions, so let's just get to the point. Let's cut to the chase. Remember, if you like this video, or if you like the content here, you want to go onto YouTube and go to Illicit Therapy and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Really would appreciate it. And we are going to jump right into this. So the subject at hand today was really, honestly, what was going on with Giorgio. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hopefully I don't got no background noise here. I got a lot of shit going on.
Nah, you good, man.
Oh, so they got some good suppression.
What's going on, man? How you been?
I have been I don't know, I've been struggling here. But that's
good, man.
That's a different topic here. Give me 1 second. Let me mute this mic here and then
I know they get most of their money, most of their revenue from American, their first party, like, the ones we know, Uncharted, Spider-Man, God of War, and all that. But Japan is very, very important to Sony, so that's how I feel.
So I want to lay down why I even made this podcast, because me and Chris Righteous always get into this every time. We basically both agree that you shouldn't be like a corporate shill, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of PlayStation fanboys that just straight up, there's nothing that PlayStation could do wrong, like nothing. And even though people blatantly see, it's kind of like our government, you know what I mean? You see that shit falling apart if you're in the U.S. and people be like, well, it's not somebody else, when shit is still fucked up. I digress from this, but I will say this, right? So we got into a conversation. So Chris puts this out there. So shout out to Chris Righteous for giving me this topic. So it's in the Jumbotron. So I'm gonna read to you what he says in the conversation and discourse that we've actually had going on. So let me just see here. Give me 1 second here. You playing basketball?
Yeah. You can hear it?
Hell yeah.
Like being active, you know what I'm saying? I just, after work, I just like going shooting some hoops, you know what I'm saying? And yeah.
You on the you on the East Coast?
No, I'm in Chicago.
Chicago. Oh shit! You better stop before somebody shoot you.
Nah, nah, I'm good, man. I'm chilling.
You playing too much with that
Uh,
basketball. Plaka plaka. Shut up.
yeah, yeah,
um. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to quickly read through this. There's some other pieces in here too, regarding just there in this particular space. There's a little link about how Sony kind of like fell from grace from the Japanese development here. So first and foremost, Chris goes ahead and states, he said Sony only wants to invest in games and genres that sells 10 million plus, so no JRPGs. And what platforms other than Mario sells 10 million units, right? Like roguelike games sell 10 million units. What VR games sell 10 million units? Near Dragon Quest 11 outsold Death Stranding, and yes, Sony still greenlit those games. So what he's basically stating is that there's a rhetoric behind Sony only cares about like like games that sells a certain amount of money or a certain amount of units or whatever the case is. Fine. So he goes and follows up with this, right? He says, I'm sure there's no proof of this. And he puts a disclaimer out here. And he says that Death Stranding costs way more money to make than Nier or Dragon Quest. It only sold 5 million so far. Well, we don't know the numbers. They did tell us a couple of years ago it was 5 million. And it is niche. It is a niche genre within itself. So he says, stop with the excuses. The only excuse is that they don't want to do it. So I always want to know from Chris, like, why do you think they don't want to do it? So we're going to get into what you just basically stated, which you think that Japanese gaming is Sony's identity. I disagree, but we're going to kind of. How do you feel about that statement?
Let me clarify to say it's part of their identity. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Sony is a global brand now. You know what I mean? Like most of their top-selling exclusive games, like Last of Us, God of War, they're not Japanese, obviously, and nowadays they're known for those games, right? There's not like a very like top-selling, top 10 selling Japanese exclusive game anymore. But what I meant to say was it's part of their identity. When you think of Japanese gaming, what comes to mind? Nintendo or Sony, right? So that's what I meant to say. But it was a lot bigger, a lot more relevant back in the 90s, like Japanese gaming was.
I think of Square Enix, actually. I think of Square Enix when it comes to Japanese games. I don't even think of Sony. And I haven't thought of Sony being that facilitator in a long time.
Yeah. As far as a console makers go, not developers, but when you think of like a top Japanese console maker, you think of Sony or Nintendo, right? So it's part of their identity. Even though like most of their top selling publishers and top selling developers, they happen to be Western. You know what I'm saying? Like American or European. But to answer your question, I think they do need to put more emphasis on making good quality Japanese games, Japanese exclusive games, because they need that market. They don't want to give that market up. You know what I mean? It's a huge market. It may not be as big as America, but it's a huge market. So I think they should continue to focus on making Western games, but they should still allocate enough revenue into making Japanese games as well.
Okay, so before we even go on, what's going on, Jemiah? What's going on, Lionel? So here's the thing. I don't think that they stopped, but there is like my whole position is there's a reason for it, and you can't, there's a lot of. I would like Sony to do a lot of different things, you know what I mean, beyond Japanese gaming, and unfortunately, there's a symbiosis when it comes to what the consumer wants and what's best for that particular company. So they have to create like a homeostasis when it comes to that. So you can't really have your cake in the ridiculous phrase, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. I didn't ghost you. What you talking about? So that's what I would say, right? Here's the thing, right? He goes on and he says, stop with the excuses. I say this, right? This isn't the wave, Chris. Sony's identity has always been cinematic experience, going all the way back to the PlayStation 1. Those games are not okay, so those games aren't typically and I meant, the Dragon Quest and Nier. They're not typical. And I said, and while we are at it, what are you getting at? What are you trying to say that Sony is prejudiced? So what I'm saying here is this, right? How do you define Sony as a company? I guess that's the better way of putting it. How do you define Sony and what they make?
How do you define what?
How do you define Sony and what they make?
Well, the thing, as you said, man, like Sony is, like I said, is a global brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make all kinds of games. They make Western games. They make Japanese games. They make all kinds of games. They can be like a Japanese. We know they're a Japanese brand, but they're not. They're known internationally. That's why they're so big in Europe and Asia and everywhere, right?
I know, but how would you define Sony?
How do we define Sony?
No, how do you personally? How do you define Sony?
I define Sony as making amazing, narrative-driven games. You know what I'm saying? Sony, by definition, they're known for telling stories, right? That's why they got the movie division. They're good at telling narrative-driven stories. You know what I'm saying? And they're very, very good at it. They can innovate. They can tell a good story. So when I think of Sony, I think of amazing, linear, narrative-driven games. That's what I'm thinking of.
So I think that's a cop-out, though. And here's why, right? Because I feel like, especially, I don't know how old you are, but I'm getting up there in age, and I feel like when it comes to PlayStation, right, a lot of newcomers to PlayStation tend to it stops at PlayStation 4 and basically goes on with that one. So that's what they have going on with that. I don't believe that. They see that the cinematic experience was on PlayStation 4 and then they just run with it. So that's the situation that I have here. They've always been doing cinematic games. For instance, let's go rewind all the way back. If it's not cinematic when it comes to actual like cinematic games that look like movies, they also did games that were like cartoons or Pixar type esque games. So that's typically was their shtick. They always wanted to kind of move gaming into a space where it was more mature, more cinematic, where people could take it seriously. That's how I look at it, right? So let's go back to PlayStation 1, right? The big games that came out, right? The movies that had Night of the Living Dead and all other stuff. They allowed Capcom to make, they publish or put it on their platform Resident Evil. And they made sure it was a particular quality where it was almost cinematic, like a movie. Which eventually it became like a movie. I mean, it is a movie. The same thing with Crash Bandicoot. That is almost like a Pixar cartoon thing that you would typically see in the movie theaters as well. Then you had Metal Gear Solid, which is like an espionage type, thriller. So you had that going on as well. The games that Final Fantasy was another, like a big game that was more cinematic than anime at the time. You know what I'm saying? So that's typically their vein. Moving on to PS2, you had the Grand Theft Auto, which was like a crime movie. You had the Getaway, which is another thriller type situation. Metal Gear Solid also make a return and make it like cinematic. Like all the games that people identify Sony with, they have always been cinematic games. It was never this weeaboo situation where it's just Japanese weird games. They had them on there because it's PlayStation, right? Any type of game you can find on this thing, but that wasn't their identity. And that's the kind of argument that I basically said. But Chris's argument falls apart when he says that Sackboy and Astro not being cinematic. Sackboy, some of the cutscenes, that shit looks straight up like a Pixar movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In terms of Astrobot, that was used to advertise like the DualSense or VR, right? He mentions Crash Bandicoot, and I'm like, that's not even their game. Sly Cooper, again, was at the height of platforming at the time. And actually, it failed. Sly Cooper was the lowest selling platform that they've made. That's the funny thing, right? So my argument is this, right? If it doesn't pay off, right? And this is where me and Chris clashes, right? If it doesn't pay off to make these things, why make them? I mean, you can't expect somebody to just keep throwing money at something, especially if they are limited on funds for things that don't work. Chris's argument, right? And I'm gonna ask you, Chris's argument with this is quite frankly, oh, well, Japanese games are getting more and more popular. And they clearly don't want to do it. They just focusing on, games that are open world. So my argument to that was open world games are the new hotness right now, right? They're the new hotness. Sony has already dipped their toe into RPG games, right? Legends of Dragoon and the like. What was that game? Folklore. They all failed. They failed astronomically. Why they don't make them anymore? So his argument was, okay, well, multiplayer games. Well, they did that. They made multiplayer games and they don't have that one. I'm like, yeah, they made it on PS3 and that failed too. You don't see no multiplayer games on PS4. We barely see that shit. So go on. I'll let you speak on this one. Go on.
Yeah, times have changed though. Listen, I know multiplayer game. PS4 tried multiplayer games back on, I would say, in the PS3 era.
They went crazy on multiplayer games in the PS3 era. They went absolutely batshit to hope that something stuck, and none of it stuck except for The Last of Us and Uncharted.
Right. They tried MAG. I think it was called MAG. They tried Warhawk. And they tried, but the thing is, I think Sony has evolved since then, and they've learned a lot. So what I'm saying is now they should go back and try and see if they can put out a good multiplayer game. You know what I'm saying? With all the expertise that they have now that they didn't have back then. You know what I'm saying? Because back during the PS3 era, they didn't have all these amazing games that we have now, whether it be multiplayer or single player. You know what I'm saying? So I think they should go back and try again and use their expertise that they have and see if they can put out a good multiplayer game that can match Halo, that can match Gears of War or Call of Duty. You know what I mean?
So here's the thing that I got going on here. Somebody wanted to go in. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find Ronan. I don't know why he left. I wanted to add him, but I couldn't find his ass. Let me see here. Let me see if I can put Ronan. Give me a second here. I need me and I Ronan. Yeah, I made a mistake. If he sees this video, I made it. What did he say? All right, cool.
Who the hell seems like a basketball?
That's his ass, man. Yeah. Nigga, everybody can hear your shit.
You can mute me, bro. I'll be playing basketball. I'm listening in. I'll mute myself.
Unmute yourself when you're ready to speak, okay?
All right, bet.
Jemiah, how the fuck are you?
Been doing good, boy. How you been?
I've been good. Getting ready for this raggedy ass Vegas trip. I got fucking spend the fucking 3 days with my supervisor. And I'm talking reckless. Go on, please. What you got to say about this?
About the whole Japanese thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times we're going to go over this shit. Like, companies are in it to make money. If they don't see any money in it, they're not going to do it. It's that simple. You know what I mean? I don't know if we're trying to overly complicate this. Like, the JRPG market is out there. Sega, Square, Atlas, all these companies are making a bunch of JRPGs. They're not doing, like, incredibly well. Well, I think, like Barry was saying, or P-Rock, most of the IPs that are doing well have, like, 5 or more iterations, and they're just starting to pop off now. You know what I mean? Persona was never popular back in the day. Like, you know what I mean? It may have been, like, fan love, but it was never selling, like, 20 million copies. It still hasn't to this day. So I don't know why people are so hyper-focused on Japanese RPGs when the market itself doesn't want these games. Sony has put out tons of JRPGs, and guess what? Nobody played Gravity Rush, right?
Well, that's a platformer.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're right. But you can also know, like, Japanese-centric games aren't really hitting in the West like that anymore. And I don't see why people are so, like, they have all these games that are coming out from different companies, but they want Sony to focus on it. I don't get that part.
Well, the thing is this is the argument that Chris says. Chris was actually pretty pissed off with this. He's like, I don't get, right, that they're investing so much money in stuff like Returnal or VR and stuff like that, and you know, and they won't invest money into Japanese gaming, you know. So that was his argument, and I'm like, fine, but you gotta understand. He was like, oh, they spend so much money, and I'm like, sandbox open world games are pretty tried and true. So if you're going to do it, you're going to get a certain amount of money when it happens. You feel me? So making an RPG, a competent one at that, right, is going to cost a lot of fucking money, and it's not guaranteed. If your ass ain't Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest or Pokemon, your ass is not making it. And in the Japanese culture, right, and even in the West, you got to be like it or not. It's kind of like Fortnite. Like Fortnite, that's it when it comes to, what do you call it? Battle Royale games. Nobody could just create a Battle Royale and it just does successfully. That doesn't work that way. All of the intention is on those things. Now, he says that Japanese gaming or the RPGs are, actually gaining in popularity, but then like it took near a long ass time to do. Dragon Quest is an old ass fucking franchise, so you can't really use that. You know what I'm saying? He goes ahead and he's like, well, Sony is actually like, going into multiplayer games again, and that failed. I'm like, games as a service and multiplayer games are completely different, and they have a games as a service that's doing very well, which is what do you call it? The show. So it's already been successful. So I have a hard time understanding why it's hard to understand that a company, if it's a major risk, they're not going to want to do it. It's flat out. Yo, George, what you gotta say about that? Oh, my bad. Go to mine.
No, I'll say even still go back to what Sean later said about they have criteria for what games they make. So they want to be either the best, the first, or it has to be a reason why they're making it, right? Like there has to be some kind of reason why they're making it. Like a game like Gravity Rush, it was a very unique game, so they're gonna put money into that, right? Mm-hmm. But just making JRPGs just to make JRPGs makes no sense for Sony, right? They're not gonna be the best. Square's gonna always make better RPGs than them. No matter what anybody says, Square's the king of JRPGs. Nobody's gonna out-Square Square.
They were the king. They were the king back in PS1 days when you had Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, and Tactics and shit like that. They tried it. It didn't work. People saw it as a fucking People saw it as an invitation.
Mm-hmm. So like. Sony was never like big in the multiplayer games or first-person shooters because the third-party developers were the ones who were leading that charge. Now that third party has fallen off, Sony's going to start to reinvest in those multiplayer games. You know what I mean? That's why they're making a big push for gas games coming out.
Well, gas games versus multiplayer games are totally different, though. That's the funny thing. They're not the same.
Well, now they're pretty much synonymous, though. Like.
No, I say that they're.
Multiplayer is like a service-based game. Every multiplayer is like there's no more like just regular multiplayer games where people.
Well, I know that's what I know. So that's what I'm saying. Like everybody has moved. Like multiplayer games, as we know it, is different. They are going. All of them are looking in. They're going into the direction of games as a service. Period. Point blank. That's what's happening. You know what I'm saying? So. No one has a real good grasp or foot into it. Not even fucking Activision. Even they like the old model ain't hitting right. So we're going to do games as a service on this front. So it's like I get where he's coming from. He thinks that it's shilling to really be like no. No one's saying no, but we got to understand why it's happening. And okay, so here's the thing. There was a developer, right? And they came out and was like, yo, Sony denied it multiple times. And I'm like, yeah, of course they denied it. It doesn't make fucking money. All this is...
No, that one developer for like Arm's Fantasia or whatever, they said that Sony didn't want it to be multiplayer. That's why Sony said no.
Oh,
they wanted Sony to get the funding. And Sony's like, make that shit exclusive. They're like, maybe we want a multiplayer. And Sony said, kick rocks.
Oh, so nah. Oh, nah, I didn't know that. So that's good to know. I was looking for that article and couldn't find shit. George, what you got to say about this? I know you got to take your little 10-minute break.
Yeah, stop hooping for a while. Yeah, I agree with your boy, man. Yeah, in the end of the day, bro, it's all about it's a financial decision. You know what I'm saying? Sony probably did the math and said, "Is it worth investing all that money into the JRPG if it's not going to sell? We're going to go with what's safe." You know what I mean? We know what's safe and proven. Making Western games that appeal to the mass market in the West, America, Western Europe, and we're going to stick to that. And that's been working fine for them. So why fix what ain't broken? You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. His problem is you're investing in, or Sony is investing in other shit that they could have made money in. You know, I mean, that they could have used for Japanese games. So, could you explain that? That's his argument.
No.
That's what Chris's argument is. He's like, you're doing fucking or VR when you could be doing Japanese games, and that's the thing. VR is.
I know, but how much of the revenue is allocated towards VR? We don't know that. You know, I mean, look at VR and then look at all the major games that are coming out. You know what I'm saying? I would argue that like 80 to 90% of all their revenue is being allocated towards making AAA, exclusive titles, and the other 20% is probably towards VR. And they just want to tackle that market and see what they can get out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me just say this really quickly. It's uncharted territory. You know what I mean? No one's tapped it like that. You know what I mean? No one's tapped that market like that. So it's new and it's worth the investment to them. And so is games as a service. It's worth that investment for them. And I mentioned before, when it comes to Western RPGs, that's almost guaranteed. Like, the West love that shit. They eat that the fuck up. As much as they say open world fatigue, every fucking time they eat that shit the fuck up. That's why they're making that's why they're making an open world game. And this is what I want to say too, because his other argument was straight up. This is the funny thing. He was like, yeah, Sony is going to other studios to make Japanese games and they're doing a collaboration, right? Cool. But why isn't Sony doing it on their own stuff? And I'm about to get into that in a second, because again, you have Team Ninja, right? They're doing their own Ronin game. All right, great. They are helping them out do their own Ronin game. So it wasn't enough for Chris. He was like, it's not enough. You know what I mean? It's not enough. They need to have their own thing. And they're working with China too with their other games. And they're like, it's not enough. They're not Japanese. That's Chinese. Fuck them. So what you guys say about that? Let me go to Jemiah real quick.
I mean, once from Sony, I mean, it's like, okay, they make a first-party studio, right? So they waste a bunch of money, break up a new studio in Japan, they make a JRPG, it sells fucking 500,000 copies. They just wasted a fucking, $200 million investment. What's that? What happens then? They close it back down? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. Like, the market is not there for him. I know he keeps saying that the JRPGs are being more popular than ever, but that's not making any fucking money though. Like, I just don't understand what he wants. Like, it doesn't make money. It doesn't make sense. He keeps saying that you guys are siding with the companies. No, I live in reality. I live in a real world where if shit doesn't make money, companies don't invest in it. Nobody's saying that. Do I want Sony to make their own first-party JRPGs? Sure, go ahead, knock yourself out. But I know they're not going to invest in it if the market's not there. It's just common sense. Nobody's arguing against it. We're just saying, look at reality, Chris. It's not going to happen. You can scream all you want. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Well, here's the thing. Before I let George go on with this one, he's saying that it's getting more and more popular. And like I said before, some of those games that he's mentioning have been there for a long time. Like Nier was made in 2009, and it's 2022. You know what I mean? It takes years for shit to be established, and they didn't have a huge budget either. That game was indie essentially. George, what you gotta say?
Listen, I know there's this narrative that Western gamers do not appreciate Japanese games, JRPGs. Here's what I think, man. I don't buy their argument. I feel like if Japanese developers, if they're willing to evolve, you know what I'm saying? If they're willing to evolve and hire some creative people, I think that games like Elden Ring is proof that Western gamers are willing to buy Japanese games if they're good. You know what I'm saying? Or if it If they're at least they appeal to the Western gamers, you know what I'm saying? So if they put in the effort, I think the JRPG games can be very popular. They can sell 10 million copies or more, but they have to make those sacrifices and they have to take those steps in doing it. Don't you agree with me on that?
I do, and you can't just. You gotta have a strategy. You can't just be like, oh, because it's Japanese, it's going to fucking work. That doesn't. No, no. It still has to have a look to it, because that's the same thing that happened with Sony when they had before they shuttered the Japan studios. They had all these little quirky.
That's the mistakes they made back in the like early 2000s.
Yeah, they had quirky games. They had quirky Japanese games. You know what I'm saying? And weird ass games and stuff like that. But guess what though? Guess what? They didn't sell, and the reason why is because it did not have the appeal. There's a certain appeal. You can't just go out there and just throw shit out there. You got to kind of understand the market, just like this right now, right? If anyone's doing podcasts and stuff like that, right? You got to find a title that's appealing to people. You know what I mean? And a subject that's appealing to people to bring them over. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's not appealing to people, it ain't going to do shit. For instance, I just had a podcast yesterday talking about, how what's causing testosterone to be testosterone in younger men to decrease for no reason. No one want to talk about that shit. It's not a hot topic. You know what I'm saying? It's just flat out, it's not a hot topic. But when you talk about certain things that kind of fits the today and now, that type of news, people want to talk about that shit. As many times, I would love to talk about new shit, but people don't want to talk about new shit. People don't want to talk about the intricacies of gaming. People want the drama. People want to hear about this shit. And that's what kind of dictates where things are going. I know that sounds left field, but at the end of the day, like, you got to understand, people are not going to invest their time, money, or effort into something that no one's really buying.
Hey guys.
Yeah, who said that? Who did that? Who did it? Oh, Ronan. Yeah, you good. What's going on, bro?
Just playing No More Heroes on my Switch. I'm trying to complete all the games before I play the third entry and all that. So yeah, you brought up a good question. Well, I wouldn't say it's a good question, but I think PlayStation, they got their JRPGs right now. Like, we got the DL Field Chronicles coming soon, which is like this year and stuff. But I wanted to bring this up really quick. It may be off topic, but it's a problem with the gaming Twitter Spaces community. I feel like I don't know what it is, but I'm not starting to see Xbox fans talk more about how Halo is starting to decline from their franchise. Like, they actually should be speaking about, like, how. Wait, hold on. Wait. Yeah. You wanted to invite me to speak. I was wondering why you DM'd me that.
You requested. You made a request.
I requested it like when you first started the Twitter space.
I didn't even peep that shit. And now I looked, and then I was gonna invite you, and they have denied first for some reason. Or at least I saw deny, or I'm trying to.
No, I didn't deny. There was something going on weird with the Twitter app.
Yeah, well, I hit deny by mistake, so that's what's going on here. And what we're talking about at this moment is really like just people. This keeps coming up as, Sony doesn't want Japanese games, and it's not that they don't want it. It's the people don't want it, and people are going to act accordingly. Like I said before, I use it as basically I use this space, and as in my Twitter handle as a rubric for things. People want drama. People want console war shit, right? That's what they want. That brings all the fans to the yard, man. Like, all that type of rhetoric and shit like that. That brings all that shit there. But the problem here is that when somebody tries to talk about something more positive or something just kind of like really gaming centric, nobody wants to hear that. So it makes an environment where people want to engage with other people, but they kind of got to spin the shit so it can bring people to come. And the same thing happens with the gaming industry. The thing is, it's not that people don't want it. People are so like tied to like, okay, so if something came out, right, if something was competing with McDonald's, what's going to happen? People are going to try that a little bit, and then they're going to go right back to McDonald's because that's what they're comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? Because they have that rapport and they know what to expect there, and they just have that taste for it. When Sony jumped into the Japanese gaming, like the RPGs, they failed every time. When they did multiplayer, they failed most of the time. And you can't expect the company, especially with limited funds, to continue to make games. You know, when they don't have the money to do it. So what Sony is doing, they shuttered the people that weren't working, you know, or the people that it's just, you know, they had Japanese titles that were indie, and that failed.
They're gonna put out. We're still waiting, probably like 2 years for Rise of the Ronin, which is, oh my god, that game looks really good.
Because you got Ronin in your damn name, man. Is that what it is? Shut your ass up. I'm I'm tired of you.
I know Stage wants to go, but real quick though, my thing is, I look at this like Final Fantasy VII remake and Tales of Arise a couple years ago were two of the like probably the best quality AAA, close to AAA JRPGs ever released, and them shits didn't go gangbusters. You know what I mean? Like Final Fantasy VII remake probably still like under 10 million still. Like it's not even over 10 million. Like I don't understand when these AAA bangers come out. Like nobody's actually buying them. Tales of Arise should have won Game of the Year that year. That was the best game that came out, but it didn't even get nominated for Game of the Year. It was in its own stupid ass category. Like it's just like, to me, like JRPGs just don't have the mind share for Western audiences, no matter what anybody wants to claim.
I'm sorry, but I think if anything sells like over 1 million kind of copies, that's like the sweet spot to me.
Yeah, that's to you. Like, that's to you, and we don't know what the budget is. You gotta understand this, right?
You know?
No, I get what you're saying, but here's the thing, right? Japanese games are inherently more complicated to make than any other game, right? Any other JRPG, or JRPGs are difficult, right? If you look at it in a coding perspective, right? The Western RPGs that you see, guess what most of the environment is? It's fucking landscape, grass and trees. You can have a random generator, right? What do you call it again? And it'll make the fucking landscapes and rolling hills and trees by itself. And then the artist come in there and clean shit up if it's some kind of graphic errors, and maybe they'll make a building or a town or two or whatever the case is, and they'll sit that bitch in there. Because of the art style, everything is curated. That's the same thing happened to Night City with Cyberpunk. They couldn't cheat it and be like, let's just randomly generate a fucking field of grass. Every building had to be individualized. And it's hard to do. It's hard technically. It's a lot of fucking money to do that as well. And that's how most Japanese games are. It's going to be more expensive for low results. When you see these Assassin's Creed games, it's mostly outside environments and puzzle piece-like towns that they can just rearrange and just stamp onto the fucking grass. That's not how Japanese games are. And what Jemiah was saying, Sony has like a tried and true type formula. Jemiah, what was that again? What they say again?
Sorry, what was that?
The formula that Sony has. They got to be the best in class. What was that again?
Oh yeah, the best, the first, or it has to be like a reason, like Concrete Genie or Dreams. Like you don't just make games just to make games. Like you don't see them just making like sports games or racer games. They have one racer. You know what I mean? GT7. They don't make 10 of them. Like they want to be the best in that genre. They don't want to be second, or like, you know what I mean? Like they don't want to be like second fiddle, or they want to be the first to make that type of game, like Gravity Rush. or do you want to make a game that's a reason for making that game?
Facts.
And this is the way that I see it.
Oh, by the way, Ronan, give me a second. Give me a second, Ronan. Stage right when Ronan is done, you can jump right in. Go on, Ronan.
And the therapy. This is the thing that you told me about. I don't know if it's like something with console wars or some shit. To be honest with you, man, I look at console wars as cringe nowadays because of like how how it's like PlayStation, you know, every time they make a tweet or whatever, and people will just make a response going, oh, Xbox is better. Xbox, I don't remember when they did this, but they were like, they actually made a tweet about PlayStation that says, PlayStation's great, Xbox is great. And then it's just like they don't, the owners of like those like accounts or whatever, or especially like the CEOs of each of those publishers, don't really like strive for like competition and stuff. And like another thing too, man, it's I don't understand. Like I said about earlier, I don't understand why the Xbox fans aren't, you know, talking about how they want new content in Halo Infinite when that game should be getting better now that this half of the staff I'm hearing is leaving 343 Industries.
Yeah, a lot of this, and there's hype culture. I just heard about this today. That's a term too. Hype culture and what people actually want. Remember when Morbius sold it bombed in the fucking box office, and then people were using it as a meme, and it started getting shared around. They were like, "It's Morbin time." Well, Sony took that shit as like, "Oh, people may want it." Just because shit is being tweeted out, and it don't mean that they want that shit. You know what I mean? Same thing with Japanese developers. You know, people that want just screaming for these Japanese games. I don't mean that they want it. People can scream all day and all night, but the numbers don't lie. You can't make them lie either. Stage, what you gotta say about this? Yo, I know your arm is tired, Stage. Yo, what's good? Yo,
Yeah, you got stage fright, I guess.
oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Well,
Hello?
yeah, what's going on, man? Yeah, we can hear you.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can't hear anything.
Oh, you gotta go back.
I guess he can't. I guess he can't hear us.
I don't think he
I
can
can
hear.
hear you. I can hear you right now. Goodbye.
Can you hear me?
You can hear me, bro.
I just got a call, so it kind of like blocked me off from hearing anything.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay. So yeah, the whole thing with Chris Ranches and everything like that.
Right, Stage. Can you hear me?
PlayStation needing Japanese games. I mean, at this
I guess he
point,
can't hear me.
again, Sony's a capitalistic country, a company. So I mean, it stands to reason that they're going to follow whatever the money dictates. But they are also a very artistic company. Now, the problem with their growth is it tended to stray in a manner of investing in more Western philosophies of art than Japanese as they grew. By their second generation, the majority of their games appealed more so to a Western audience. So, I mean, there was no way around it. Even though Kojima makes Japanese games, he makes games that appeal to a Western audience. You know, the whole philosophy of how he does things, it's based on like, you know, conspiracy theories, espionage, a whole bunch of different factors all rolled up into one. You know, and
Yo, Stage, can you hear me?
Fun experience, and a lot of people like these games, you know, more so than even like a more straightforward.
I'm gonna remove him and then I'm gonna add him back because the Twitter is tripping right now. So I just invited him to speak again. He can't hear me and I had to ask him questions. So what we got from him is that basically Sony is a capitalistic company, which I think fucking every company is capitalistic. Really. That's what's going on. They're all capitalistic. So like everyone's gonna flow where the money is. That's just what it is. Where the fuck is he? Why does it look like that? Stage block. All right, is he in there?
Yeah, okay.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
All right, I had to kick you out and start over. So, yeah, we heard what you were saying about they're capitalistic in their art kind of, or well, they're leaning more towards
Yeah,
Western.
their philosophy.
Their
Yeah.
philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Kojima and talk about conspiracy theories. I don't think that he's trying to go after Western art. That's just him, and it just
Yeah, no,
it
no,
just.
his
But you're saying that
philosophy
he's like
behind his art
leaning.
is
You're
very
saying
Western.
that he's leaning more towards it. That's just him.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, but I know he's a Japanese guy. And a lot of his work is counted as Japanese, but the thing is, the philosophy of his art is very Western if you think about it, and Western centric. So I mean, it does still count as a Japanese-made product, but it speaks to the heart of the Western person. That's what I mean. You know.
right. But he's not. He's not trying to cater towards Western. That's why I just wanted to make that distinction. He's not trying to cater
No,
to.
no.
In case anybody got you all crossed.
I'm saying Western. I'm saying Western philosophy.
Right.
Well, I would say like games like movies, animes like Akira or Ghost in the Shell or even Spring Game. Those seem to be more like Western focused things, but
Exactly.
the Japanese culture also they like that shit too though. They like sci-fi, Evangelion, Gundam. I mean, so like I think it's just like culture in general between East and West when it comes to games and anime. It's so closely tied together that sometimes it may seem like they're catering towards us, but they also have an audience in Japan.
There's a lapse. I think that's what you want to say. That there's a lapse to it.
Stuff like that. Very curious about that. You know, they put their own spin on it in their own way. They read a lot of history, things like that. But I mean,
stage.
Yeah.
So Metal Gear Solid, right? You're saying it is centric. I don't remember us having mechs anywhere. You know, so I mean, there's some lapse in Western and Eastern culture when it comes to his games.
Yeah.
You know. But what are you trying to get at though? Let me try to figure that out. What is your ultimate?
The thing is that like okay, a lot of the games that like Sony seems to like be invested in tended to have like a sort of Western philosophy from the very beginning. Like for instance, the game that's in the Smithsonian right now, Shadow of the Colossus. Even though it's a very Japanese game, these are based on like very Western fable, you know, and stuff like that.
I would go as far as for the Shadow of the Colossus. That is as Japanese as you can get. I don't like. What do you mean?
As Japanese as you can get. Those are based off of those are golems, dude.
Even if they're golems, well, why do you? Okay,
I understand that it's Japanese, but I'm saying
no, but I'm saying like, okay, so what's wait, what? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What your ultimate thing is, and I'm gonna let you talk, but I just need to know what the ultimate thing is because it's like you're giving a lesson here.
So is when you say Death Stranding is, I understand that it's Japanese made, but I'm saying the philosophy behind most of his artwork.
He's saying like the ideals. So like yeah.
The last game he came out is very.
So, but why are you zeroing? Well, hold on. Why are you zeroing in on Kojima specifically?
He was one of the starting figures
Of what?
of what made PlayStation fall into a Western centric concept.
They were always Western centric. They were Western centric before Metal Gear Solid dropped in 1998. That Tomb Raider game in general was already cinematic. What the thing that, and this is what I was saying, unless you look at that type of cinema or cinematography as being Western, they've always done that cinematography types, that type of, you know, flow to it. In terms of, let me ask you a question. What's a golem? Hold on, wait. What's a golem?
Which was Japanese, and I agree with that.
Hold on, I know. Well, what's a golem?
Yeah. Huh?
What's a golem?
It's basically like how do you say it's like a lifeless thing. Like it's brought to life. Like it's hard to say. It's in fables. Like you can bring them to life and stuff like that. They're basically like soulless.
Well, that's the thing. Shadow Colossus. Those
giants. They exist. They were also in I think they were in Dragon Age as well. Golems were in Dragon Age.
Yeah, but you're saying basically they're golems. Those identities
Yeah, they're Titan. They're golems, but they're Titans. But
Okay, so but that's not regular as like regular golems. One and number two, like they had those sigils to keep them in place, and three, they were fleshy until you broke the sigils. You know what I mean? But the thing is, that's not just in Western culture. Golems. I mean, if you want to call them golems, I guess that would make it that way. But inanimate objects that can move, that's in every corner of.
No, I understand.
But why are you saying that it's golems that they're basically golems and they're Western? That's what I'm saying. When it's present in every single culture though.
The games are very relatable.
No, I'm talking about Shadow. I'm talking about Shadow of the Colossus though. I'm talking about Shadow of the Colossus. There's those golems that you say that's present in every single like culture. It's not just Western.
I'm sure okay. There's totems and things like that. I understand.
Uh-huh.
But the fact of the matter is that I'm saying that like in Western culture, they have a lot of them for sure in their lore.
I know, but you're focusing on Western culture having golems or anything of that nature. I'm saying that
Well, I think we're taking we're drilling down too deep on what he's saying.
No, I want the reason why I'm saying
popular.
the
Most of the popular Japanese games in America have a Western centric veneer, on it. Like Metal Gear Solid, it's like a white guy in New York City. You know what I mean? He's doing espionage shit. He's not working for the Japanese army.
Devil May Cry.
Like these games are, yeah.
But so is anime though. But so is anime though. Anime is doing the same thing. Okay. So let me get to the only reason why I say that is because I get hung up on the Shadow of the Colossus portion because it's really not Western. You know what I mean? Because they have inanimate objects that move.
What in Japanese culture does that go back to?
I'll look that up and give that to you.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see.
You know what I'm saying? But I would imagine since you went to college,
Zelda's based. I mean, it's very relatable to Zelda, and Zelda in itself is based on like what European.
Well, that's Zelda. That's Zelda, and Shadow of the Colossus is not Zelda. They're not elves.
No, but remember the whole thing running with the sword and the light thing. It's very very reminiscent of, but it's its own game.
But okay, so let me go to anime then. Anime, most of them are white. Actually almost all of them are white for main characters, and sometimes you'll get them in Japanese cities. But what? Okay, so let me ask you this question then. What are you trying to get at? Okay, so you're saying that. Hold on, wait. You're saying that Sony is Western centric.
Yeah.
What are you trying to get at though?
I mean, even with the Japanese.
I know, but take that all away. Take that all away. I'm just trying to get to the crux of what you're saying.
Well, the games that sell tend to speak to the heart of the Western gamer. Eventually, their best studios were Japanese outside of the third. I mean, they were Western outside of the third party that they had already made, which were making kind of like Japanese, as was said before, games with a Western veneer.
Are you insinuating that Sony is deliberately going after Western culture?
Yes.
I mean, right now.
Real quick though, let's go real quick. What's this thing? If you look up the history of anime,
Getting what sells. They're doing what sells.
no, but listen. If you look at the history of anime, I actually watched like a whole documentary on anime.
Yeah.
Anime was made for Western audiences. I don't know what Genki was trying to say last time, but the whole big eyes, the round eyes, all that shit was all geared towards since I think what was that? What's the fucking that one Astro flying guy? But like since the beginning of Astro Boy, beginning of anime, they focus on Western audiences always. That's why anime is so heavily. They have a lot of white-looking characters. Like Wink has blonde hair and blue eyes.
Oh wait. Also, Jemiah. Also, fucking Mario is an Italian.
So Japan has always when you do anything, they take other cultures and they put their own spin on it, but it's always focused on an outwards appeal. It's never focused on an inward appeal for their media.
So let's get to the point of it. Okay, cool, right? You're saying that it's Western centric. So I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Are you insinuating that Sony is going after Western culture?
Well, I mean,
no. It's a yes or 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 no.
Well, okay. the games, the most popular.
It can't just
games
depend. I'm asking you a question that can only go two ways. It's a binary answer. Yes or no. Do you think that Sony is going after Western developers or Western culture?
The majority of their most successful.
Can you just
developers
answer
are.
yes or no, please? Can you answer
That's
yes or
a
no?
fact.
Can you answer
At
yes
this
or
point,
no?
yes.
Yes, you're saying yes, right?
Yes, the majority of their most successful developers are Western.
No, I'm not. No, so you're trying to convolute what my
No,
what
they're literally.
you're trying to convolute my question. My question is, do you stage believe that Sony is going after Western culture for sales? That's my question. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we got that there. So why single out Sony when Nintendo did it? I mean, Elves, Mario, which is a white guy. What is it? You said Zelda was black and blonde hair, blue eyes. Mario.
Well, Zelda. I mean, Nintendo at least bought Monolith and started investing.
It doesn't matter. Okay, so fine. Sony bought a whole bunch of other companies too that were Japanese.
I'm not trying to. I'm not arguing for or against the
No, I know, but then if you're not arguing with it, then what is your point? Sony is going after Western developers for what reason? For sales. That's what you're saying.
Sony's going, as any capitalistic company, they're going to follow the money.
Every company is capital. Every company is capitalistic. Every single one.
But Nintendo, hold on 1 second. Nintendo themselves aren't doing a very capitalistic thing when they're investing in Bayonetta. That's more for having a more diverse library.
There's control. There's control.
How much do you think, dude? Do you think Bayonetta right now is more successful than it ever was as multiplat?
You can't answer. Okay, so I'll answer your question. Ask it again. I'll answer it yes or no, and then I'll caveat it.
Do you think Bayonetta on Nintendo is more successful than it was as a multiplat?
I would say that it's probably about even. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little more successful than what it would be on multi-platform. But you got to understand, right? Bayonetta was a new IP when it started, and then Nintendo took it over and then made it their, their flagship, diverse game.
It's not a flagship.
Flagship diverse. Can I finish, please? Flagship diverse game. So I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's this. The thing about that game is not a seller. It's one of my favorite games, but I can even admit one of my favorite games is not a seller.
So your point, okay, so what's the solution then? So if so, not even a solution.
Nintendo is willing to take the risk, Sony will not.
Nintendo has a fault. Okay. Nintendo is not invested in a lot of different things. The only thing that they don't invest in hardware, right? Mm-hmm. So they're doing the cheapest thing ever. They don't really care about third party because third party typically don't sell on that console anyway. So it doesn't really matter, and it probably doesn't cost that much for them to have exclusive rights and them to pick up the scraps or whatever that Nintendo is doing it. So it's not like they're doing that as. Are you insinuating that Nintendo is doing this shit out of charity because of fans when they don't even sell? No, but I'm asking you. You singled out Sony as a capitalistic company, which every company is capitalistic in nature. So you single Sony out, and then you say, but with a caveat with Nintendo, at least Nintendo bought a Japanese developer for X, Y, and Z. Do you realize that the Japan studios was the largest studio that they had for a very long time? Do you realize that?
I understand.
Do you realize that Polyphony? Do you realize that Polyphony Digital? Do you realize that Polyphony Digital is still one of the largest studios that they have, and it's Japanese?
Yeah, but
okay.
I'm talking about other games outside.
No, you can't. You can't. No, your thing is Japanese. They're going after Western culture.
I made the argument. I made the same argument before that Sony is invested to a certain degree because that's the reason why the Soul series is as big as it is today. Because if they didn't take that risk, it wouldn't be where it is. And their quality control stamp was all over it. They funded that game from the very beginning, but they just didn't believe it would sell.
See, the thing is, every time I have a conversation with you, Stage, you have like this nebulous this nebulous thought pattern
Yeah.
that doesn't have any direction as to what are you trying to say? I need to be concise.
No, we just clashed. That's all.
No, it's not a clash. I don't think it's clash. I just need to understand. I just need to understand what.
It's not really as nebulous as you think. But the fact of the matter is.
So I'm gonna ask everybody that's in here, right? Jemiah,
Yeah.
do you know what Stage is trying to get at?
Yeah, I think what he's trying to say is that Japanese developers in themselves, when they make games, they make a lot of Western-centric games if they're trying to sell to overseas audiences, right? Like that whole Yakuza engine, and then it comes to America because they thought it wouldn't sell in America. You know what I'm saying? But they'll go ahead and make a game like Demon Souls or fucking, you know what I mean, or whatever, because they think that it'll sell to Western audiences based on what taste that they think we have. So yes, Sony has always been focused on Western-centric games because those are the games that sell in America. Like Kojima has always been a Western-centric developer. See, the problem is people think that Japanese developers can only make JRPGs for some reason. They make a lot of games other than JRPGs, and they have a different genres too, like we do. Like, you know what I mean? Like I said, Prolific Digital makes racers. That's not like a cultural thing. It's just a racing game. You know what I mean? So when you try to force these developers to make RPGs all the time, it's not gonna work. You can't have 55,000 Japanese developers all making JRPGs
Because you want it. George, what do you think Stage Block is saying exactly?
Hey man, I was just busy playing basketball, man. I was half listening.
So
That's funny.
no, that's cool. That's cool. The thing is this: if I can take everything that you're saying, because another thing is too, you don't commit to your answers. You keep it in such a state where you can wiggle out of commitment of your answer. That's why I'm asking like yes or no questions. But let me just speak. So if I could just take everything that you're saying, is that Sony doesn't really care about the Japanese culture. They care about where the money. They care about where the money is. Is what I'm hearing from you.
They want to make more money. They want to get larger. Microsoft is their competition, and now they're sending them into a very scary place. So the fact of the matter is, they have to now focus on making games that are going to create more profit. Look at the PS4 generation. They had to learn to become more conservative, and what that means is that they had to end up focusing more on, the PS3 era. They threw shit at the wall and trying to find what would stick. Making a lot of risk and losing a lot of money. And on the PS4 generation, they bubbled down and they focus only on making quality. Kind of like what Capcom's doing right now to basically revitalize their image, and it's working.
So that's that's all I was asking for. That's because everybody that's in the gaming industry knows what's really going on. They may not like it, and they may have a temper tantrum, but they know what's going on. You know what I mean? So what I was trying to get out of the situation is to see if you're saying that Sony is following the money, but then every company is following money. The reason why Nintendo is not making a powerful console is that they know their fucking place. They know that it doesn't matter to their demographic, and they know that they can't expand their demographic either from where it is.
You're right. You're right to a certain degree.
They're not spending a lot of money when it comes to development costs. They're not spending a lot of money when it comes to making a console. They're not spending a lot of money on third-party exclusives either. That's just one fucking game where Sony has to do multiple fucking games from every corner of the world. They're only stuck in where they're at. So they're being capitalistic in a different way, but it only suits their image. The reason why Nintendo is not stepping out of their image is because they know it doesn't sell. They're going to sell their Mario. Shit, for the longest time, they didn't make a lot of Zelda games because that wasn't really popping. You know what I mean? They don't make Metroid. They don't even make their own Metroid game because they know that shit typically ain't popping either. Kirby games is also suffering as well. The Kirby games is suffering as well. They it ain't popping where it is now. A company is not going to throw money at something where it's going to be. There's always calculated risk. So I want to ask you, Stage, right? Chris Righteous mentions this, right? He says but they're investing in Returnal and Sackboy, and they're investing in what do you call it, VR. What do you guys say about that?
Well, I mean, the company that makes Returnal, as much as I love them, they don't make very popular games. And so the thing about it is that one could question Sony's, well, not Sackboy. Sackboy has always been semi-popular to a degree. I mean, it was pretty popular on the PS3, but and PS4 it dropped, off the face of the earth. But with Returnal, it revitalized a certain level of quality and notoriety. But if Sony would actually focus on like more new Japanese IP and kind of like not with as much investment as they did in Returnal, but possibly the games that they made before, like a smaller game, and then build it up slowly over time. This is what I actually talked to Chris Reich about. And I think he agreed.
He's going to agree. He's going to agree because he knows the truth. He don't like it.
What?
But what I was trying to say was the whole time is I think that people really they're trying to put Japanese developers into a box and saying that they have to make JRPGs or like Forspoken to me, I don't think Forspoken's a JRPG. Even though it's an RPG and it's made by Japanese developers, it's not a JRPG to me. Like I think that Japanese developers can make tons of games that are not JRPGs, and we have to let them do what they need to do. We can't force them to make Legend of Dragoon or Man or whatever the fuck people want, all these goddamn remakes. Like, let them make whatever games they want to make. I want to get a new freaking Armored Core. Is that a Japanese JRPG?
Yeah.
Like, no, but FromSoft is a Japanese developer. And Kojima, he doesn't make JRPGs. He makes games he wants to make.
Yeah.
And trying to force these companies to make JRPGs all the time just because it's Japanese is kind of like redundant to me.
Well, Jemiah, before you go on stage, here's the question for both of you, right?
Yep.
The question there is, they have the money to spend to invest in Japanese double A games and triple A games because they're investing in games like Returnal, and they're investing in VR.
Well, that's a triple A game. Yeah.
Well, no, but see, the thing is, right? People are going to agree to disagree, right? They're going to say that Returnal isn't.
No, but I agree with you though about that. Yeah.
Returnal is one of those games that's like first in class, right? Or it's very unique. So they made that game because there's something on the market like that. Sony likes to make games that are not on the market, like Concrete Genie, like Dreams, like Returnal. They're gonna invest in those games. They're not gonna invest in another cookie cutter JRPG just because people are screaming on Twitter about having Japanese, RPGs. It just makes sense.
Actually, Jemiah, the funny thing is, I would agree with that if there wasn't a trend currently going on that Sony caught on to. And the thing is that Sony has been dealing with this developer for quite a while, and they kind of saw the project and were decided to fund it and stuff like that later on. But the situation with Returnal is that it's the first AAA roguelike game.
Yeah, but what's the budget though?
I mean, it's a roguelike.
The new in thing now.
What's the budget?
It's already gone. Like it was in that one brief second when you have like Hades and Deathloop and Returnal and all these games getting popular, but the roguelike genre is never gonna be huge. The thing that made Returnal so good was the gunplay, was the action.
Hades,
you know what I mean?
I think the peak of it, yeah.
Oh, by the way, Stage. If you're talking about that developer that wanted Sony to fund their shit and Sony denied them multiple times, Jemiah has information on that as well.
Wait, which developer?
You said there was something trending on Twitter.
For the Arms of
Trend? What?
Whatever game, the Arms successful game.
You said that there was something going on. You said I will believe that, but there's a thing trending on Twitter about a developer.
No. I was just alluding to the fact that I was leading to where I was going. There's something going on right now, and I asked the question: what is the big in thing right now that's happening, essentially? And it's still the rise in the indie sector. It's still roguelike. You know, so the thing is that like you know that's still a very big thing. It's just that Sony funded the first AAA roguelike, and the thing is now what's it called in Assassin's Creed. They've now implemented roguelike features into Assassin's Creed. Now it's just so stupid.
Well, no, because it's not. But here's the thing, right? The reason why Returnal probably didn't do. There's a couple of reasons why I feel like Returnal didn't do well. All right, man. I appreciate you.
I'm talking to you, man.
I appreciate your contributions. Thank you, man.
Yep.
So I think that when it comes to Returnal, because I'm about to wrap this shit up anyway. When it comes to Returnal, right? I think that what's happening with Returnal is that, like, here's the problem with Returnal that really kind of pisses me off, is that a lot of the developers really hated the fact that you couldn't save your game. They mentioned the fact that they had a family and kids, imaginary family, imaginary kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, bullshit like that. And it's like, word, for real. And that kind of hurt the game. But like Jemiah said, first in class, there is no AAA or roguelike game like that. They put a lot of effort into that. So of course they're going to like really kind of invest money into that. And I don't blame them. The thing is, when you get people that are fans of Japanese culture, people glorify the Japanese culture like way higher than what it's supposed to be. That's the biggest problem. Because it ain't like Japanese culture just always hits. You know what I mean? That ain't it. Japanese culture has been fucking up a lot. And it was so bad that Capcom almost went under for that shit. And so did Square.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
and
you know.
Capcom saved themselves because they made the new mission statement to quality, yeah.
Yeah, they went back to the basics. A lot of Japanese cultures, a lot of Japanese games, they fucked up royally. Because they got greedy with money and the quality just like completely dipped, or they didn't know how to use the development kits the way that they should use the development kits, and that like the PS3 era really fucked them up, and the inflated, and then on top of it, they didn't want to invest money. Shit, fucking Street Fighter fucked up too. They fucked that up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tekken, Namco Bandai, they fucked that game up too, fucking up the quality of it. You know what I mean? They using third party engines, stuff like that. So hold on, when I say
in terms of quality, what do you mean?
For what game?
Tekken.
Tekken was fucking razor fucking sharp when they were at the tip of the knife when it came to like technology. Some of their games, like
did you see the new demo?
Oh no, well, I'll get to that. Some of the tip quality that they did, right, when they created the first Tekken, they went from Tekken, and it was first in class in terms of like that type of 3D, right, fighting. And there was other games that did better 3D fighter, but you know, Sony gave them a chance. People kind of like their swag or whatever the case is. They did it big for the second one. You know what I mean? And then they realized that people really wanted that type of 3D fighter, and they went fucking crazy. Like, it's rare that a fighting game gets Game of the fucking Year when they made Tekken 3. That's how crazy they went.
Yep.
Then when they moved to PS2, they made Tekken Tag, and first of all, the graphics for the original Tekken 3 looked ridiculous on PS1. That didn't even, it shouldn't even happen.
That took it to the limit.
It shouldn't even happen. So I was like, what the fuck? So they did PS2, and they did Tekken Tag, and even that was like, what the fuck was this all about? It looked so fucking crazy. Like, when I saw pictures of Tekken Tag, I didn't even think that shit was fucking in real time. I was like, get the fuck, there's no fucking way that's real time. Ain't no way.
Yeah.
And then they made Tekken 4, right? And it was just like, I guess, okay, I see you. Then they made Tekken 5, and it was just like, it was like a downgrade. I get why it was a downgrade, because they reworked their engine to have actual 3D environments, and that was a new wave. Having environments, like having them being like affected, you can break them into the floor and all this other shit. They got it from Dead or Alive and shit like that. And then when it came to the PS3, it was like low resolution. The engine looked like, or the art assets looked like ass. It didn't even, like, what the fuck happened? Like, all PS3 generation fucked up all Japanese developers. All of them. Like, they didn't know how to cope with that type of system. Whatever it was, they all misstepped. You know what I'm saying? Except for Capcom. Capcom made, what was that Snow game again?
Snow? No game.
It was a game that was on the 360.
It was on. Okay, hold on. I have it. I'm going to look for it right now.
It was big too.
I have it right here.
It was big.
One second. Lost Planet.
Lost Planet. Yep.
Yeah.
That bitch was big as a motherfucker. Lost Planet, and then they hit there, right? Cool, and then they had Resident Evil, right? And Resident Evil took a weird turn. People wasn't feeling it, and plus it came after fucking Resident Evil 4, so people was like, nah.
Yeah, it tried to compete with the contemporaries that learned from it. That learned from what's it called? Resident Evil 4. Uncharted basically learned from RE4 when it came into its existence, and Kill Switch. And Gears of War was another student of the game with Kill Switch as well.
Yeah, they started to try to mimic Western games. It was like they wanted that fast money, and because they didn't do it right, they kind of fucked themselves.
The Western companies were doing it first, but they were like lesser known. And then like there were games like Win Back on the PS1 and the N64. Then there was Kill Switch. Yeah, you're right.
When the Western developers started getting it in their stride and really doing it, they created They started like mopping the floor with a lot of Japanese developers. Yep. And then the Japanese developers, all of them start falling short. They were closing and everything like that. It got really bad for them. And then that's what made Capcom make that mission statement. That's when they went back to form. They realized, right, that people that want Japanese shit from Japanese developers, they want it to be Japanese. They don't want it to be any other thing but Japanese. So Capcom went back to form, right? Square Enix went back to form and started getting successful with that remake. In terms of Namco Bandai, they took a long time to fix everything that they had there. There's a layover with Namco Bandai because they had Negan from fucking Walking Dead and shit like that. They kind of got their stride when it came to what people were looking for, so they really nailed that. And they really took their time because actually Namco Bandai was supposed to make a Tekken versus Street Fighter crossover, and that shit never fucking happened.
Yeah, it didn't end up happening. Yeah,
I was waiting for that more than anything.
Everybody wanted to see Namco's version.
Well, you know what happened? Namco saw that fucking the Capcom one didn't do that well. They was like, nope.
Yeah, there's no way. The thing is that at that time, Tekken was so popular, like until like Tekken 4, and then it dropped off the face of the earth, and then Tekken 5 saved the franchise. And
then, when they had to go cheap again. They had to go cheap and really focus on the mechanics because they didn't have the budget.
4 really killed the quality.
It killed it really did.
The story was weak. The whole thing, the whole operation, like
it really killed it. It killed it because G-Corp, it started
the founding of G-Corp.
Huh?
That was like one of the weakest Tekkens ever.
Yeah.
At the beginning of that generation.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily they saved themselves before the end. And
most of these Japanese developers, including Nintendo,
Tekken 6, that it brought them back to form. 5 and 6, and then Tekken Tag 2, it continued to remain popular. They put out content with Dark Resurrection and things like that.
They were doing weird things too. There was that Nina game from Tekken on PS2. Like it wasn't even a fighting game necessarily. Like like I said, it wasn't that Japanese people just couldn't miss. They were missing a lot, but then financially they couldn't do that. It was fucking them up. And I just hate when I hear people that are like so Japanese, like fans of the series, fans of Japanese culture. They tend to fuck up and think that they can't do no wrong, and it's like the whole generation they fucked up, and they allow the Western. Well, I was going to say this. They allow the Western developer to kind of encroach on their shit, which is Western RPGs and stuff like that. Now they become they're going back to form. And honestly, I hate to say this, but this whole Forspoken thing where they try to add, this feels like a straight, they try to do a black protagonist and they try to make it Western and all that other shit. That's not,
It was good.
well, hold on. The thing is, that's not going to be it. I don't think it's going to sell that well. I think they shoehorn.
Square Enix has always been copying Sony. Square Enix has been on a tear trying to copy Sony, and they've failed time and time again to match the quality of Sony. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't mean that the games that they make weren't quality.
No, I'm not saying that. Here's the thing: if there was so much quality, then it would sell. That's point blank. It eventually will sell.
I mean, yeah, but look at Tomb Raider. I mean, it sold.
No, Tomb Raider had a game. Tomb Raider had a game. Tomb Raider had a game, and it's fucking contemporary. The contemporary beat it to death. Uncharted, they couldn't compete with that. It was so many things that Naughty Dog was ahead of them with. Ain't no way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that Jemiah, like, not all quality games will sell well. I will say that let it sit enough. If you give it enough time, it'll eventually catch on. That's just what it is.
That's true. The thing is, some games that are high in quality end up going under the radar. But they still are beloved.
They gotta keep at it, and that's the thing. You know what I mean? But again, if these people, these weeaboos, if they want that fucking if they want Japanese games to succeed, you're gonna need to buy. All of these people that scream on social media need to buy every single one and make a statement. I hate to say it, but that's what it is.
I agree. Even on the PlayStation side.
PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Oh, yeah, by the way, Nintendo fucked up too. Nintendo fucked up with the PS3 era too. It spilled over into the PS4 era. That's with that Wii U.
Won that era.
No, with that Wii. No, I'm saying it spilled. No, they won it because they weren't making. Okay, so they won it because of non-gamers.
That's true.
That's not legit. When they.
But that's still Nintendo. Bro, you're telling me right now, Nintendo, what they learned to do, as you said so astutely before, was that they had to learn to essentially compete in an indirect way. So, I mean,
well, but hear me out. When they tried to be, but hear me out. When they tried to,
them with the graphics
hear me out. When they tried to really go at it,
yeah, and
make something unique with the Wii U, it failed miserably. You know what I'm saying? The Wii U failed miserably. They had new IPs and everything.
Switch made up for it.
And when they got into their stride, when they went back and realized what their identity was.
Yeah.
Then when they realized their identity and realized what they were really good at, that's what really kicked them into overdrive. The same thing with Sony. When Sony realized that all this whole hold on, wait. When Sony realized that their cinematic experience that they've always been doing was their bread and butter, they ran with that shit.
Of course.
And now, in terms of the investment, people are bitching about, they're doing games as a service. Well, that hasn't been really tapped into, so that's why they're doing it. It hasn't failed yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they're going to need it with Microsoft buying up all the third-party intellectual property that's already been out in the ether. You know, like
I don't think. Look. I'm going to talk about this on the weekend too, right? You know, I'm going to talk about this. The only way I know how to talk about it is nobody can emulate the way I do shit, right?
Here we go.
I'm going to talk about. This is the subject for the weekend, and if you want to join there, I'd love for you to join.
I'm free on Saturday. I think.
It's Saturday. What you say?
Yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah, I'm free on Saturday.
So the question here with Saturday's show is going to be, is third party in jeopardy? Not third party. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Is AAA in jeopardy?
Yeah. There's a deeper discussion you can have on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta find a better way of putting it, but basically the sentiment of it is, Sean Layton said that it's not sustainable. It's AAA sustainable, and I would say the answer is no. It's not sustainable. Which is the reason why.
I mean, if you look at what's happening, well, I don't want. I could get into it right now, but that would depend on you. Yeah.
Now I don't want to get too deep into it, but I do want to say this that
I'll
when
save it for later. Yeah.
I want to say this just to kind of get the flow of it. What is it? I do want to say this right. Here's a funny thing. When it comes to AAA, the reason why Sony is going as games as a service, and this I keep telling people this, yo, y'all gonna respect my black ass, yo. I'm sick of it. Sick of y'all motherfuckers, yo. I'm tired of it. Sony has been engineering their first party games to have multiplayer games as a service like elements to reduce the overhead for making these games as a service. They're giving them these type of flavor of games as a service. It's built into the game. You know what I mean? It's built in. And it allows for them to make little tweaks and it'll just go straight into games as a service because they already designed the games as a service. It's like they made a game. It's like when they went to the drawing board, they were like, let's make a games as a service mechanics and then put an actual single player on top of it. So that if Sony asked us to do games as a service, it was already made. When you look at Horizon Forbidden West, that game plays like a games as a service game. It has all of the necessary ingredients, the looting, the adventure aspects, the different gaming elements like the racing and shit like that. The different machines, like the storyline even supports it. So Hephaestus is just going to keep making different machines over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So they can keep releasing.
How like Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima eventually translated to a multiplayer game. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That when they're making their games, it's designed to have that type of multiplayer game element in there. That's what it's designed to do. And I'm glad. I'm glad that they're doing it that way because that's what needs to fucking happen. Because here's the thing. They're not going to not make AAA games, you know, with great storylines because that is their bread and butter. But if people are really wanting that high caliber quality, then they got to understand that there's a cost to it. And if you don't want to pay $80 or $90 for the fucking game, then you want to have to pay. I'm sorry, it's a business. So what I believe,
I'm sure Sony will make another Souls game though.
Oh no, they will. But the games, hold on. The games as a service is supposed to supplement their budget. If they could just have one of these motherfuckers or two of these motherfuckers hit off, which is probably going to be The Last of Us, that's going to be big. And Horizon is going to be the other big thing.
Wait, when you say supplement, the thing, okay, are you talking about the smaller games that you're talking about?
The games as a service, they make
for the smaller games that they're working on, kind of like how Sean Layden said in the past that the AAA games were funded slightly by kept alive. In a supplementary fashion by the large AAAs that brought people to the ecosystem.
Yes, it's going to be inverted this time around.
Okay.
You're going to have games as a service, which is smaller games. You know.
Smaller?
Yeah, smaller.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see. Okay.
Games as a service, they're going to evolve. They're going to evolve with a particular budget. But the game, when you make a games as a service, you don't need to go crazy on assets and shit like that. First of all, the assets that's in Horizon are all transferable to a game like that. You don't need to make new environments.
They're gonna go premium, dude.
No, I know they're gonna go premium, but they already went premium within this sphere.
Yeah.
When they make a games as a service shit, they already have all the pieces there. They don't need to make anything extra. That's it. You know what I mean? They did it. That's the only thing that I'm just basically mentioning. That's the thing. And
bro, I'm gonna be having dinner. My stomach's killing me right now, but I'm good talking, bro.
Oh wait! Before you go, right? Before I wrap up, right? This is just going to take 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
When Chris Rogers said what he was saying,
yeah,
right? Because they were saying about Japanese developers, and Sony's not doing it themselves.
I talked to Chris Rogers about it.
Right, but Sony was saying that, Chris Rogers was saying that they're not even trying to invest in Japanese games themselves. They're going to other people. And I had...
Yeah, he's right.
Well, they are. You want to know why? They got rid of the fucking Japanese developers. They don't have enough people to make the
And
game.
that's what frustrates him.
Well, they're hiring other people. They don't have the people to make it though. That's what I'm saying. Like, how you gonna just make a game with like 3 people? Like a Sobe team.
And this is the reason why I was trying to tell you earlier. At least like Nintendo, purchased Monolith, even though their games weren't extremely popular. They saw a niche that they needed to cover, and they just
No, they only picked that up because they don't have. They're trying to diverse their portfolio. But if they have, but listen. Third party doesn't pop on Nintendo. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
So, but third party does on Sony's platform. So it's like, what is the use of them doing it when third party is already taking care of the situation? That's all I'm saying. So here's the thing. The complaints. Hold on. Wait. Hold on.
COD.
Hold on. The complaints that people have, right, about this shit. Here's the complaints. They get upset, right, that Sony is not making Japanese games. Well, you need fucking Japanese people to make it. They already clean house. They don't have the people to do it. And we don't even fucking know if they're hiring Japanese people. I told them, I said, what if Sony will actually buy...
Find a studio.
Huh?
I think Sony can find a studio.
Yeah, it's probably going to be... Look. Here's what I said. I said they have to build Japan studios. I said they have to build a Japan studios again. I don't think they can at the time in terms of making things. So I said... So maybe an acquisition, which I'm probably going to be fucking Square Enix. It's probably going to be them. So I said, so let me ask you, if they buy Square Enix, would you still be like, they don't really care about us? You know what I'm saying? And he was like, well, no.
I don't think it really says, because the thing is, remember, we're not like Microsoft guys. We don't like look at a acquisition as Sony really showing that they care in a way that, because we're used to these companies investing in studios and cultivating their talent. It's just like Nintendo cultivating Monolith's talent, with Sony gamers and Nintendo gamers, we know what it's like to
we don't. But here's the thing: before I let you go, right?
Yeah.
No one knows what Sony's doing. Not even with their first party. We don't even know anything beyond 2022 other than VR.
No, I understand.
So when he's screaming at when he's screaming, but hold on, when he's screaming at the top of his lungs, right, about what Sony is not doing, we don't even know what they're doing. Why even fucking complain if we don't know what they're doing?
I can empathize with him because he's a JRPG fan and he's also...
He already got JRPGs. He has it already.
I know that.
Why is he complaining? They gave it to him. He has it.
I can empathize with him.
No, I know, but I'm saying myself. I'm saying myself. Why does he care? It's on that platform and nowhere else.
Because he wants Sony to go back to making like Legends of Dragoon.
They only did that once in the 30 years they existed. There was only one time period when they did it was PS1. PS1 and PS3 when they did the.
A lot of people, they always go back to that time period.
But y'all just won it. But look, he just won it just to win it. Ain't like he's a big fan of that. You just won it just to have it. You ain't no big fan of that shit. You ain't no big. You act like you waited. I've waited for 25 years.
I said to Chris Righteous was that they could not do it in a risky capacity that is third party.
But then he goes through a loop. But then he goes through a loop. I can't stand. Oh, they're doing VR. The company.
I said to him, the compromise that we can make is that they could at least do a AA project. At least.
But you're not in Sony's pockets, though. I can tell you. Look, I know, but I'm gonna tell Chris the next time I talk to him or you.
Always call me a fence sitter. Well, that is me literally.
I know, but I'm gonna go to Chris Righteous. I'll be like, yo, how much you make? But I'm gonna tell it to Chris. How much you make? How much you make an hour? He ain't gonna say shit, right? And then I'll be like, you know what? If you make around this, you know what I think you should do? I think you should invest in cryptocurrency. If you don't invest in cryptocurrency,
you can understand his point without agreeing.
I've always understood it. No, basically, his point is that I want more Japanese games from Sony directly with that quality. But he's having a temper tantrum.
But okay, the thing that I said with him was, again, I'll go back to it. You could start off with a new IP that is AA. If there's a fan base that amasses from it, you could keep going.
Block.
Block.
We don't know what Sony is doing. The PS5 is not even 2 years old yet. Can it breathe? Can it breathe?
Excuse me. I'm the same person who said the next JRPG that Sony will probably invest in is probably another Souls game. Because if you really think about the what they feel is safe, and it's like a lot of people were talking about with Sony before, a lot of these companies are investing in known quantities that can actually sell.
I know. See, but block. We know this. I'm addressing the situation with Chris.
Yeah.
We already know this. I know that you already told him this. You're a logical person, but it's like we don't know when 2023 happens, and if you don't hear anything in the next fucking 6 months after 2023, like June, then you can go out and talk about they don't really care about us. Then you can do that shit. Other than that, it's not even the fucking PS5 hasn't even cooled off yet from launch.
The truth is that you are correct to a certain degree. That they haven't shown anything yet. There's 20 new IPs that they have to show. So I mean, and they haven't even begun to scratch the surface on showing anything yet. So I mean,
he needs to relax. He needs
divulging a little bit.
He needs to relax
because it's becoming infuriating for some of the people who've been waiting for a while. And it's well known that Sony hits their stride after their second year.
He needs to relax. He needs to have some water and play and play his God of War, right? He needs to play his Final Fantasy, whatever the fuck it is, retrograde, Mercury, whatever the fuck they're saying, and just relax.
Oh
just relax. You're good.
Mercury?
I don't know what the fuck name it is. I don't be fucking with Final Fantasy like that. Whatever the fuck it is, Mercury retrograde. Whatever horoscope that they're using, I don't know. So, either way, let me let you go eat. I'm gonna read the last little bit here about somebody else that had the same sentiment. Huh?
I'm listening while you're talking.
Okay. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do here is just read the last little bit in here. I forgot to do this here too. Before we keep it the fuck moving. And I can't pull it up here. That's unfortunate, but I can still read it off to you. So there was a website, and they basically said how Sony lost its edge. And I'm gonna read this through, right? And you can leave the comments in the video and what you think about these people. They're of course European. They're from Europe, and you know how pretentious they are with their fucking misspelling of favorite and color. You know I don't like that shit, right? Over time, things changed. I remember discovering my favorite burger restaurant chain while in Birmingham, whatever the fuck it is. It was called Handmade Burger Company. It was Mid Naughty. See, this is the pretentiousness, right? Anyway, it's called Mid Naughty, Naughties, and eating there every time I was in the city. And later on, when they expanded to Manchester, before they unceremoniously closed their doors in 2020, which probably was COVID. And I never got one final chance to try their delicious food. Why am I starting on the post of my Vita? Okay, why am I starting a post on my Vita blog talking about burgers? Well, gaming. Just like in the UK, burger restaurant industry has changed over the decade, and nowhere is more evident with PlayStation. What was once a quirky Japanese distributor in the industry, keen to making a mark, really they just allow all games, by the way, to be made. Doesn't matter what it is. Disruptor in the industry. Leaves a mark as a leader of the pack, is now established, now an established player, headquartered in North America, focused on a recurring revenue and record-breaking profits over everything else. What the fuck else other company is? Anyway, of course, business is business, and I can't blame executives at all for chasing after the biggest moneymakers, such as the cinematic, action games, live service titles, and subscription services. Gaming, just like everything else, is changing, and if you don't adapt, you'll get left behind like our favorite burger restaurants. However, one of the downsides of evolution is that they often lose traits that weren't essential, but were a lovely bonus. This is very much how I feel about the loss of PlayStation identity. I was inspired to make this post after replaying Vib Ribbon, the quirky rhythm title where you control a sketched rabbit along a 2D courses and are randomly generated by the CD you insert in the original PlayStation 1 game or console. While a lot was lost in the move to the Vita, the game did not work with MP3s, making it a fleeting experience. It should have been, that sucks. I was floored by the amount of character and inventiveness on display in such a simple premise. And it was reminded me of the era where Sony was trying to shake things up in the industry rather than just follow the existing rules. Sony just went in there and asked everybody to make 3D games. Now, they build up their catalog by trying to differentiate themselves with the Japan studios, which is why they inflated to what they were. Sony was not known for fucking Vib Ribbon. I'm letting you know. Maybe Parappa the Rapper, but it wasn't. Anyway, many writers wax on about the PlayStation sex was built on third parties, which is undoubtedly true. He admits to this. But it's easily to forget that at the very beginning, their internal Japan studios were working with Japan's developers to create unique experiences for the hardware. Take example, Jumping Flash, the first video game I've ever played in the early 3D platformer developed by an internal studio known as Exact. That pioneered first-person leaping in a way that few games imitated, although they really should have. Throughout the PlayStation era, they continue to innovate, whether it be Ape Escape with its controls, built around the DualShock. You can trace their quirky spirit throughout each subsequent generation. The design of Mad Mosquito, Mr. Mosquito on PS2, Loco Roco, Patapine, the Tokyo Jungle. Or what about fucking Concrete Genie? Did you mention that? That was PS4, but I guess, and Dreams, you didn't mention that either. See, the thing is with these people, they only focus on Japanese games, and it was never about Japanese games. It's like Sony is still making video games to shake things up, but you refuse to see it because you like Japanese culture. That's what it boils down to. For better or for worse, Vita felt like a final opportunity for Japan studios to flex their creative muscles. With Gravity Rush, a sequel, Freedom Wars, Soul Sacrifice, all of them failed, by the way. Then after some floundering during the PS4 generation, where their output seems to be consistent, remasters of the past Hex and Nax, the studios were quietly reorganized in 2021. Some moved to Team Asobi, the caretakers of Astro Bot franchise, and remaining to be laid off. Suddenly, 2.5 decades of experience and history was gone with it, with a vast chunk to be a PlayStation identity. Bro, you are not buying a PlayStation for Vibe Ribbon or Gravity Rush. I can't. That's not their identity. Don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing that it doesn't make business sense to close the studios, Japan studios. They were bloated with a ton of employees, but little to show. They particularly struggled on PS3, and the PS4 hadn't fared any better. A small success with Everybody Golf, with other collaborators from software titles, which they made blood fucking boring. We just started the PlayStation fucking 5 generation. I don't understand. I don't get it. And this shit just keeps going on about his fucking orgasm and his fucking like fantasy about PlayStation that doesn't exist. Bro, I'm not doing this with you. I'm not doing this with you. You just like Japanese games. You fail to see the other creative games that they made. You don't want to see anything the fuck else. You already mentioned in this article that they were inflated and they barely had anything to show for it. What do you want them to do? I would implore you to let me live in your flat. That's what you call it, right? I would implore you, let me live in your flat. And just eat all your food, use all your electricity, don't clean the fuck up and just chill the fuck out without paying any fucking rent. I can't deal with you. Stop it. God darn it, man. It's like annoying.
Hold on. Hey, hold on. So you're saying he doesn't have any point at all?
I thought you were eating, nigga.
Man, I am eating.
That you see your stomach hurting.
Man, you can't. So you're saying as you go back down memory lane, I agree with you 100% about what they've done with Western studios. But can't you see what he's saying?
No, I see that he has a fetish for Japanese games. That's all I see.
Bro. Listen, man.
What is PlayStation 1 known for? Vib Ribbon? Is that what they known for? Parappa the Rapper? Are they known for that? Were people lining up in droves for Parappa the Rapper? What about Last Guardian? Did they line up for that too? Patapine? Loco Roco? Bro.
Hey, hold on. This is exactly what goes back to what Chris Wright was saying. And this is where I do agree with him. There is a problem, and this goes a little deeper. The problem with Sony's relevance in Japan is waning because of the fact that they are not as invested in JRPGs as they used to be. And they're reliant on third parties to carry them.
Because they had 3 generations of people of Japanese studios. He just mentioned 3 generations from PS1 to PS3.
Yes.
They did not buy those games. I'm sick of it. They didn't buy it for 3 generations.
Hey, no.
For 3 generations, they did not buy those games. Period.
Hold on one second. I understand that, but the fact of the matter is that Sony eventually has to give a good effort like they've given to the Western developers.
They did. They let them be. No. The effort that you guys want. Hold on. Wait, block. Wait, block. Block, please. Please.
You know it.
Block, please. Block. If, right? You live alone?
No, I'm with my family right now.
No. Do you live alone?
No.
Okay. Do you have an extra room for me to stay in?
No.
You don't have an extra room, but can you like live in the living room and me live in your room?
Then you better go out on the porch.
No. Since we run that game, yo. Since we doing charities, right? Since it's charity cases, let me live there. You move out.
This is not a charity case.
Yo, let me stack some money. So I can move somewhere else. So I can get a house. Just do whatever I want. Just you get out your room and let me live there. Let me live there.
What do you think Chris Wright just wants them to do? They want them to act like they have their own house.
They gave them 3 generations of different type of unique experiences. See, this is the thing. You either have a structured environment where you lose some creativity, or you're completely creative and nothing gets the fuck done. You know how artists work. Anybody that draws, right? And they have that free spirit, they don't do shit because they have no structure. That's what happened. You can't have structure and that freedom at the same time, man. You gotta.
What are you trying to say, man? I draw too, man. What are you talking about, man?
Don't let me go there, man. Don't let me go there, man. Don't let me go there. Please don't.
No.
Please don't let me go there.
Here we go. You see this, man? He's about to smile too because he knows he's going down that place, man. He's going to that dark road. You know, let me just. Man, you see it right there, Jesus Christ, man.
I'm just saying, right? When you know I'm to be right? Did you go to school for art?
Huh?
Did you go to school for art?
Yeah.
All right. So what are you going to do about that degree, diploma, whatever it is?
Making a graphics business.
I'm sorry?
Making a graphics business.
All right. So where's that at? How's that coming along?
I didn't actually build it before, but I was working for a graphics company before.
Oh.
And, huh?
I said, oh, mm-hmm.
I got let go because of the pandemic.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So you see what happens when
I'm gonna
see.
start doing my own thing now.
Okay, so how come you didn't start doing your thing but 10 years ago?
10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't graduate 10 years ago.
All right. So when did you start going to school?
It was in 2010. I graduated 2014.
Oh, okay. So how come you didn't start in 2015?
I was working literally for a graphics company in production for about 5 years.
Okay, so you working and you didn't save no money?
Oh my god, bro!
Ooh, ooh,
I had nothing to.
ooh! I'm just saying things don't grow on trees. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying the layoff, which I apologize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel for you. I'm just saying if shit don't make money, that's the end result.
Well, I mean, big money, of course, obviously.
Well, we don't know the finances of Sony though.
Yeah, of course. Our situation isn't well. It's on a micro level compared to Microsoft and Sony and what they're doing.
Okay, so who are we to tell what Sony should be doing? First and foremost, right?
We're consumers.
I know, but I understand. All he's doing is yelling at the wind, right? That's all Chris Righteous is doing. And I'm gonna go back to what I was saying. I ain't changed. I'm putting my foot on the neck of the situation. This guy has a fetish for Japanese games. Point blank. Period. They had 3 generations to make something creative that everybody in Japan was going to connect to, such as Pikmin, such as Splatoon, all those games. It didn't crack shit. 3 generations. 3 generations. They don't want their games because you need some sort of structure. You can't say that Sony didn't try, man. They did.
Sony, well, the thing about it is that Sony's first party has gained a high level of quality in America, in the West, in America. The problem is if they can get their Japanese companies, just
what Japanese company? Ain't nobody left. They gotta build them again.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so what's the argument with Chris though?
No, I'm just saying. At the end of the day,
What are you supposed to do? Full Metal Alchemy? Okay, there's all my developers. That's not how that's gonna work.
I understand what you're saying economically speaking, but I'm saying culturally speaking, do you want actually even economically speaking, because Sony's actual sales in Japan is dwindling in general.
Everything is dwindling.
Because they're becoming more mobile.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
even more reasons as to why I should make a Japanese game.
They really need to be right now.
They need to what? Because you want it? Because you want it? I want it. I want it. That's what y'all sound like to me. Both of you. I want it. Sony, please give it to me. I want it.
They need to look at what the market wants.
The market does not want that.
Oh my God.
The market wants that, then they would be making 10 million. They would have 10 million sales. They don't want that shit. In Japan, those studios, they want what they want in Japan.
That is not happening even for Nintendo.
What is? I said, no, I ain't talking about Japan. I'm talking about all over. If I say Japan, let's say 5 million. Sony has yet to make an IP that's 5 million other than Gran Turismo, I believe. It's the only one that came close.
From Japan, yeah. From Japan.
They don't want their games. What is Sony to do? Emulate Nintendo?
Picked up by Europeans.
Okay.
Gran Turismo is a Eurocentric game.
Huh?
It's mostly picked up by Europeans.
What is? What's it?
Gran Turismo.
Now it is, yeah. At one point, it was doing well. Yeah. Now not anymore. No. Now, not anymore. It's almost dead.
Yeah.
In Japan, I said. Gran Turismo in Japan is almost dead.
I mean, because it's always been like a very Eurocentric game. Like Europeans love simulations, racing simulations.
So again, they gotta go back to the market. They gotta go back to the drawing board and figure out what the Japanese want, because again, they made RPGs and
I agree with you.
They need time to go back and think about it, because they can't just make shit and waste money.
No, but that is that we just compromised. You just compromised with Chris Righteous without even knowing it.
What do you mean?
They need to go back to the drawing board. And
No, I never said he was wrong. I'm saying that they probably went back to the drawing board, but guess what Chris Righteous is doing? He went on straight on Twitter. I won it! We don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh my god. That was funny, man.
Come on, man. That's what he sound like. And everybody else is talking about Japanese games. Huh? Wait. So I'm trying to make him sound like a kid. But that's what y'all sound like, man. I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They fucked up with the Souls game. They should have been purchased them or whatever the case.
What?
I said they should have purchased From Software. That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They should have picked them up. You know what I mean? But nobody knew that was going to get that big.
If they did, oh my god, everybody would complain. The PC gamers would lose their shit. The Xbox gamers would lose their shit. Why did Sony buy the Souls game?
Y'all getting mad at Activision? They did Japanese.
Ever bought that?
Yeah, they'd be on some bullshit. Woo!
They would literally, like, everybody would be at Sony's neck.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Sony is responsible for Demon Souls in the first place.
Sony. Let's keep it no cap. Sony is responsible for how people like gaming nowadays. Most of it.
Yep.
That's not even no cap.
I mean, Nintendo popularized it, and then Sony basically made it.
Well, Sony made it mainstream, and for everybody, including women, to play games. What Nintendo did is they stagnated to family oriented and nostalgia. You know what I mean? They are loyal to their fans, and those fans bless them every game that they make. I don't think Nintendo has ever been this successful. So, not only do they have the numbers for consoles, but their games are selling fucking crazy.
Are you counting the handhelds or the actual console?
I'm counting the handhelds too, because like their games never sold like fucking 30 million.
Well, yeah, I guess they're combining audiences, and also
I don't care what direction they went. It's still, I don't care what direction it is. They still killing it. But all I'm saying is this: Chris Righteous needs to have several. He needs that. Look. No disrespect, Chris Righteous. If you hear this, you know what I'm gonna say. Have several seats and wait, and stop sounding like a baby. I want it. I don't know what they're gonna do. I already got my game, which is Horizon. If they fuck that shit up, well, just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. It's just funny how you got people.
That's a Western studio, though. That's a different. Sony is going fire on all cylinders with their Western studio.
I don't even think so, because they still have to beat Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed ain't killing it the way they want it either.
Dude, did you see Ghost of Tsushima?
What about it?
Dude, everybody has already pretty much hailed it as the real Assassin's Creed game.
I mean, true, but like, here's the thing: before Ghost of Tsushima, look, my point is, they should honestly like they're not hitting. Okay, so everybody's saying it, right? Remember, you have the hype club, and then you have what really is going on, reality. Everybody hyped Ghost of Tsushima, and it only sold like 7 million. What do you fucking do? Where Assassin's Creed is selling 20 million. I don't give a fucking.
It sold 10 million. It sold 10 million at this point.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though. It should have been up there. Assassin's Creed is selling fucking 20, 30 million and making $2-3 billion a year.
Not even, Uncharted didn't even sell that much in the beginning, bro. Come on. Give it a break.
No.
Uncharted didn't get to those sales until part 2.
I don't care.
Oh my god. But, bro, it's not always going to be with every game.
That's people need to understand that in general. That's all I'm saying. But I'm gonna get the fuck out of here, yo. That's a good talk. I gotta really think of other subjects as well on this weekend to see what's going on with that one. But yo, it's been real, guys. It's been real. I appreciate you guys. Give this video a like and a retweet, y'all. Hope you guys liked it, and peace out.